Part 5. As we leave the fourth witness to hear the fifth one, we can take advantage of the short recess to note that we have gained solid ground on our course. We have established outlines and cultural history for two forms of withdrawal from the urban theatre of ambitions. The first withdrawal occurred as philosophy, to the extent that it rose beyond the level of urban success. The second occurred as cynicism, to the extent that it fell into the gutter beyond victory or defeat. Both undermined the system of balancing out depression with fame and success, because they had an ironic approach to mortal's goal of public ambition. A third dropout from the urban theatre would become the most dangerous of all, at once the most helpless and the angriest. The third member of the alliance against the urban ambition system is the man who hates human beings, and can prove that only experience with fellow citizens and officers made him what he is now. The next witness is Timon ho Misanthropos, as Lucian called him in the title of a dramatic story. Timon's story can be read like that of a Greek Job. Shakespeare, the playwright who was the most important mind in the political theory of the early modern age, devoted one of his most pessimistic plays to Timon of Athens. It was written between 1605 and 1608, close to King Lear. This finally made negative political theorists give this character the attention he merited. Considering the Athenian Timon, who was disenchanted with his city, gives us the opportunity to rethink Pindar's justifications for the city once again. It is quite clear that Timon's Athens was not only a homogeneous field of citizens competing for honours, but also a setting for dishonourable competitions. From early on, the city was a composite of a city of aristocrats and a city of commerce, leaving aside the urban underworld for the moment. What this combination actually meant was first shown in the catastrophe that separated these elements. It might give the impression that happiness is just another word for not having to analyse. Athens' best times were those in which the Athenians treated the difference between their own selves and other Athenians as if it didn't exist. In its most serene days, the manic city was identical with the economic city, with people looking for prestige and those looking for money temporarily sitting at the same tables. At least there was no sign of anything that would make citizens wary of the dangerous differential that their capacity for cohabitation simultaneously justified and threatened. The polis did not yet know that it could only exist when a non-scheming class in it held the balance with a scheming one. Democracy was impossible without a strong additional dose of aristocracy. The case of Timon marked the end of the happy days of non-differentiating. The decline of Athens began, not least with the enlightenment of Timon, just as the death of Socrates had shown that the polis was unable to give a suitable place to its intellectually most brilliant citizens. The fall of Timon showed that there was no further space in the city for aristocratic, manic generosity. The city was de facto in the hands of undistinguished people. One knew that from then on. The pillars of bourgeois aristocracy that Pindar extolled were broken. Being famous in the eyes of one's fellow human beings is not worth much if the fame does not save you from ingratitude. And that was precisely Timon's fate, and it was immediately understood as a powerful example. The Athenian Job was not tested by God for the limits of his devotion. No, he himself tested the equality of his fellow citizens after he fell into debt as a result of noble expenses, and learned that the wealthy Athenians who owed him so much had nothing to give back to him. His many false friends excused themselves, one and all, when he needed their help. Timon's response to this lesson was misanthropy. It is the logical end for the aristocrat who had believed he could get back from citizens what he had given them as a nobleman. Timon's hatred of humanity marked the moment in world history in which a society of mutual gifts was submerged in a society of mutual businesses. The generous person with his great name collapsed into misery. In the new reality of money, a great name alone no longer necessarily meant unconditional credit. This is how Timon earned a second name, Misanthropos, which stands for the bankruptcy of aristocratic trust in the idea that one's fellow citizens are as high-minded as oneself. Almost a century later, when Aristotle discussed fostering the high-mindedness and generosity of citizens in Book 4 of the Nicomachean Ethics, it was already merely conducting verbal analyses that barely retain their relevance in the urban reality of that time. In fact, Shakespeare, faced with something similar in his times, rightly invented a philosophical brute, a cynic. He showed the noble lords that it was folly to overvalue bourgeois crumbs. Epamantos, the cynic, states that the only people who maintain unflinching self-respect are those who expect nothing from others, or in other words, they expect the worst. Looking at the hustle and bustle of Athens with the eyes of the universe is enough on its own to save ourselves from disappointment. Understanding everything means despising everything. That is what Timon, the nobleman, does not yet know. He will learn it. Timon's speech cursing his city is Shakespeare's memorial to the apolitical awakening of a citizen from his political dream. Here is Timon's monologue outside the walls of Athens from the beginning of Act 4. Let me look back upon thee, O thou wall that girdlest in those wolves. Dive in the earth, and fence not Athens. Matrons turn incontinent. Obedience fail in children. Slaves and fools pluck the grave wrinkled senate from the bench, and minister in their steads to general filths. Convert, o' the instant, green virginity. Do it in your parents' eyes. Bankrupts, hold fast rather than render back. Out with your knives and cut your trusters' throats. Bound servants steal. Large-handed robbers your grave-masters are, and pill by law. Maid, to thy master's bed, thy mistress is of the brothel. Son of 16, pluck the lined crutch from thy old limping sire, and with it beat out his brains. Piety and fear, religion to the gods, peace, justice, truth, domestic awe, night rest, neighbourhood, instruction, manners, mysteries and trades, degrees, observances, customs and laws, decline to your confounding contraries, and let confusion live. Plagues, incident to men, your potent and infectious fevers heap on Athens ripe for stroke. Thou cold sciatica, cripple our senators, that our limbs may halt as lamely as their manners. Lust and liberty creep in the minds and marrows of our youth, that 'gainst the stream of virtue they may strive, and drown themselves in riot. Itches, blains, sow all the Athenian bosoms, and their crop be general leprosy. Breath infect breath at their society, as their friendship, merely poison. Nothing I'll bear from thee, but nakedness, thou detestable town. Take thou that too, with multiplying bands. Timon will to the woods, where he shall find the unkindest beast, more kinder than mankind. The gods confound, hear me, you good gods all, the Athenians, both within and out that wall, and grant, as Timon grows, his hate may grow, to the whole race of mankind, high and low. Amen. Timon's appeal for rebellion in the inverted world began a process by which Europeans learned to look soberly at their relationships, far removed from feudal transfiguration and aristocratic mystification. One day Marx, writing in the Communist Manifesto, would reclaim Timon's sobriety for the revolution. Revolution is a modern name for a call that was already a call to departure in antiquity, the call to break out from the false city. The city of money is the inverted world. Where do we find a world that stands on its feet?